Sound check. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sound check.
All right, perfect. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to first meeting of this year of the Ag and Rural Affairs Subcommittee. As we have quorum, I'm assuming we do. I didn't count. Quorum present for today. I would like to call this meeting of the Agriculture and Rural Affairs Subcommittee to order. Just a reminder to turn off your devices if you could. We'll move to the agenda. Is there a mover and a seconder? I see Daniel. Daniel and Melvin, thank you. Any discussion on the agenda? Any additions? If not, all in favor? Just, yep, anybody opposed? That's carried. Very good. Are there any declarations of interest? Not seeing any. I think we can drive on from there. Approval of the minutes of the previous meeting from November 21st. Is there a mover? Alpayne, seconder. See Councillor Cassar. Any discussion on the minutes? Nope. Not hearing any. All in favor of approving the minutes? Any opposed? It's carried. Sorry, I didn't look this way. You guys are good? All right. Very good. Item number 7.1, staff presentation. Welcome Heather Travis tonight, Manager of Legislative Approvals and Staging Development. And we'd be pleased to hear your presentation on Farm 911.
Excellent. Thanks. Can everyone hear me? Okay. Yep. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So as Mr. Sprelstra mentioned, my name is Heather Travis. I'm the manager of the Legislative Approval section in the Growth Management Division. And I'm here today to provide you an update on the Farm 911 program. There we go. Sorry about that. So I think most of the people around this group are familiar with the Farm 911 program. We refer to it as the Farm 911 Emergency Access Point, or EAP program. And it was approved by Council in December of 2023 and came into effect in January 2024. And again, just for those who might not know, this is the program that allows rural property owners to apply for a red and white Farm 911 EAP sign, which is intended to help emergency services better locate properties in the event of an emergency. And to date, since the program came into effect, we've received 5 requests for a Farm 911 EAP number. And actually, I have a slight update to that because we received another request yesterday after I made this presentation. But for the most part, we'd received 5 requests over the course of the last year. And 2 of those requests have been approved and a Farm 911 number was assigned. But 3 of the requests were not approved, and that was due to conflicts with the existing policy as it's written. And so the 3 requests which were not approved didn't meet one or both of the following criteria that's in the existing policy. And that's that the properties must be vacant and the properties must not have an existing municipal address. So when the policy was crafted, that was what the criteria were that were established in order for a property to be eligible for such a number. So just to give an example then of this is one of the properties for which we received a request, which did not conform with that part of the policy. So in this case, this property is vacant, but it already has a municipal address. So this is Highway 20, and this is the primary entrance to that property, and it has a municipal number already assigned. But there are 2 other existing secondary accesses off of, I believe this is Woodburn, and those accesses, you can see just by looking kind of at this property, if an emergency or a situation were to occur over closer to one of these access points, there could be a delay if emergency responders went to the main property address off of Highway 20, and there's also a creek which could even preclude access further. So looking at situations like this, we did see that it could make sense to look at expanding the policy or loosening it up a little bit to allow for situations like this to be better addressed. So we've reviewed the policy and we've looked at other municipalities, how they limit the assigning of numbers. It's really a mixed bag. Some of them have the same restrictions as Hamilton currently does. Others are a little bit more flexible and allows for existing secondary access points to be addressed, even if there is an existing municipal number, or even if the property is not vacant. We also consulted with our emergency services partners. They've been big helps to us in drafting this policy, just to make sure that if we were to expand the policy and allow for farm 911 numbers to be assigned to a property, for example, that already has an existing municipal address, that it wouldn't create any confusion on their part. And they confirmed with us that no, it would be fine, that they can place appropriate notes in their dispatch systems to confirm the situation on each given property, provided that we provide them detailed mapping that shows the access points that are being assigned such a number. So we are proposing to revise the policy to allow a farm 911 number to be applied to a property if it does not meet those criteria that I mentioned before. So what you see on the property is how we're proposing, on the slide is how we're proposing to change this. And the part in red will be the new addition. So, so I'll just read it. So to be eligible for an EAP number, one of the following criteria must be met. So the property shall be vacant and shall not have an existing civic address. So that's the current restriction. But then we've added that for properties which do not conform to that clause above, there is an existing secondary access point or points located on the property which are sufficiently far from the main property entrance to justify an EAP number for the purpose of improving property identification. At their discretion, staff will assess whether the existing secondary access points justify the need for an EAP number based on distance from the main access point and potential benefit for emergency response time. And just a note that an EAP number shall not be assigned in lieu of a civic address in situations where a civic address would actually be required. And we did receive one request to assign a farm 911 number to a building on a property which is being used as like a separate a business on the property, and it made more sense in that case for a separate civic address to be assigned in that case. So we just want to make that clear. And then just the reason why we need to have this discussion and bring this back to council before it's approved is that there is some financial impacts from opening the policy up further, as we're doing now. So I think most of you know that the Farm 911 program does operate at a no-cost basis to applicants. So there's no charge to apply for the number, and there's no charge for the signage that's installed on the property. So when the program was approved in late 2023, there was an amount of $94,850 budgeted for the program to cover the cost of the installation and fabrication of the signs. But that number was derived from an estimate of vacant properties in the rural area coming forward with such a request. So we do need to acknowledge that expanding the program to allow properties that may have a municipal address and maybe not vacant will increase the number of eligible properties that may come forward for a request. But at the present time, staff are not going to be put forward a request for additional funding. Based on the uptake to date, it's not, we're not getting overwhelmed by requests. And while we do acknowledge there will be more coming forward, we do think it's appropriate to monitor the program after we've expanded it, and then we can report back to council in future if there's a need to request additional funding. And so the next steps, this will be going forward to Planning Committee in late February or March. This is being brought forward at the same time as we're bringing forward a larger initiative of a municipal addressing bylaw in the city of Hamilton. This Farm 911 policy does form part of our existing municipal address policy. And so because we're opening that policy up and amending it to create this new bylaw, we thought it made sense to bring forward these edits to the Farm 911 policy at the same time. And then as provided it is approved by council at that time, the revised policy will come into force and effect immediately upon that approval. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Heather. I'm sure there might be some questions. My first one is, what's the definition of sufficiently far? or the interpretation?
Yeah, through the chair, it's something that we're leaving up to some discretion for staff to work with our partners in emergency services, just to look at each case on a case-by-case basis. That there is, what we're trying to just confirm is that there would be a benefit, that when we contact fire and police and ambulance, they would say that, yeah, in a case like this, we could see a benefit to having another access assigned. What generally we would say is if the access points are on two different road frontages, like the example that I showed you in the presentation, that would always be justification. But if you have two access points on the same road frontage, that's when we would consult with our emergency service partners and just ensure that there is benefit to assigning that additional number.
Okay. Are there other questions? No?
I have one, Drew.
Alan's got one here first. Go ahead.
Okay.
So on the example, would there be two additional? Because you've got a large ditch going down there that would restrict the ability to cross.
Through the chair, yeah, when we looked at that example, that's what we thought would be appropriate, that we would assign two address EAP numbers on that Woodburn Road frontage. Yes, that's correct.
And it's because I know the company I work for have multiple rented properties through Glanbrook and Ancaster, and a new number would be extremely helpful, even for our information, because, oh, it's next to such and such address, or it's down the road from such an address. Go find it. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Right.
Mel?
Yeah, I was going to along the same lines. I mean, this affects both Drew and I because we got a ditch that runs across through both our farms, and there's no way across in that ditch except where our entrances are to them. There are two fields would be very efficient to get emergency to, because there is a ditch that goes across the road and across Drew's farm and across my farm. So that's what I was wondering, if that would be able to get the numbers for that.
Through the chair, absolutely, and that's the kind of situation we're trying to address here.
Yep.
And I would say, I mean, in general, it's staff are going to take the approach of trying to accommodate most of the requests. It's not the opposite where we're looking for reasons to say no. So there is that discretionary ability, but unless it's a situation where it's, you know, a request where the points are accesses are very close together, in all likelihood, we will approve most of the requests that come forward, because the whole point of the program is to try to improve that ability to access the properties as quick as possible.
And that's what I thought it was going to be to start with, too, that we could do that. But the way it read to come out, we weren't able to do that. So thank you.
Dale?
Yeah, there's a large sum of money available for this program, and I'm just wondering what's the estimated cost for the sign and the post? Roughly how many signs, can we put through this program?
Through the chair, I'm just going to look that up. That was in the original report we brought forward in 2023. So the cost of the sign fabrication and installation at that time, in 2023 or early 2024, was $258 per sign. There is the option for some folks do choose to install the sign on their own, and then that cost goes down because it's just the cost of the fabrication for the city, and then some folks like to install it on their own. But the maximum would be about that $250 per sign.
Okay, thank you. I just, so in some cases, I don't know. We talked about before, the location of the signs and being aware of sign has to be on city property or whatever. Is that still the consensus?
Through the chair, yeah. If property owners do choose to install the sign on their own, then our public works folks have a set of guidelines that they provide them that identify where and how the sign has to be located. It's similar to the program that's already in place for the green and white municipal address signs. Some people install those on their own, and some people have the city install them. And we do have a set of criteria for how those installations have to take place.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Heather? Councillor Clark?
Just a quick question. So assuming that it is approved at the planning committee and subsequently at council, how quickly will the amendments to the program go into effect?
Through the chair, they would be implemented immediately. So there would be no need for any delay. The bylaw that we're bringing forward, that's going to have an effect, a delayed effective date, but this is a separate piece. It's a policy that we control within the Growth Management Division, and it would be enforced in effect immediately upon approval.
So the property that is off of 20 near Woodburn, they have not received the 3 signs or the 2 signs?
Through the chair, that's correct. They have not received them in the other requests that we received, which also wasn't approved, have not received their signs, but we will be reaching out to those property owners as soon as the amendments are made and working with them to get those numbers assigned and the signs produced for them.
That's great, Heather. Thank you very much.
Heather, is it a requirement that the landowner be the applicant, or in Alan's case, or my own case where we rent land, can a tenant on the property request a sign?
Through yourself, someone else can make the application, but we do require owner sign off on the application form.
Any other questions? Yeah, Alan.
The only comment I have is, like I said last meeting, it should be mandatory and done through the entire city, maybe 1 ward or 2 wards at a time, so that everybody has it. Because if you leave it up to the landowner, it isn't going to happen, because it's already been in force for a year and you've only had 5 applications in a year. It's not going to happen unless it's being put in as a mandatory requirement.
Yeah, through the chair, I guess, yeah, we would have to have some direction from council on that, just because there is that budgetary impact right now, because it's a free program. I understand what you're saying. We are going to suggest, and I should have noted this in the presentation, that once these amendments are approved, we will reconnect with the city's communications team and try to get the message out again that the program's been amended, and try to get some momentum going. And we would send some information to the rural councillors who are on this committee and ask them to share the information with their constituents in hopes to try to get some more uptake on the program.
Yeah, Daniel.
Heather, if I could springboard off Alan's question a little bit, do we know how many vacant farm properties there are roughly in the city, even just as an approximation?
Sorry, through the chair, I'm just going to check the report again. So again, when we prepared this, this report, again, this was a little dated now, but there was approximately 280 vacant agricultural properties, which we considered would be eligible for a Farm 911 sign. And I don't have it right in front of me, but we did have a threshold of size, a very smaller property that already, smaller properties we didn't think would necessarily need a separate emergency access point number. So we had to use some criteria when we looked at that number, but that was our original estimation, was 280 vacant properties that we thought could theoretically come forward with a request.
Any other questions? Yep, Councillor Clark.
Given the number of vacant properties, agricultural properties, we're not creating a database or a list that will be made public anywhere, are we?
Through the chair, no, that's not the intent.
Okay, because I just immediately thought of push parties, and if we advertise that there's a vacant agricultural property, it would be a prime suspect for that type of activity. So I just thought I'd ask that, Heather. Thank you. Keep that in mind just in case.
I will. And as I said, yeah, there's been no discussions about making any sort of list public that I've been aware of.
I think I think the councillor's conscious of the next cyber attack. Opening up for bush parties. I wanted to just go back to Alan's question about mandatory addressing, and I wondered if your municipal addressing bylaw that's coming forward, does it address any of those types of things as well?
So the municipal addressing bylaw only deals with civic address numbers, so the mailing address on properties. It doesn't get into the farm 911 numbers. Those are separate because it's not a mandatory program. It's not under the bylaw because we're not requiring people to apply for such a number.
Councillor Casaria.
Yeah, just another comment just on the budget and the number available. Just doing some rough math, and maybe Heather, you already have this, but if there's $94,000 available, that's roughly 380 signs. So which is significantly more than the number you just shared. Was it 260 or something? So it sounds like there's some room for a loosened policy to absorb some more properties. Do I have that right?
Through the chair, that's correct. Yeah, we did allow a little bit of kind of wiggle room when we established that number, and also allowed for some inflationary costs that we couldn't necessarily predict in terms of if the cost of the signage or installation were to increase over the years. But it was always the intent that we would monitor the program and see what the uptake was, and if needed to report back to council to discuss the budget, available budget, then that we would do so. So I think that's still the case here. We just wanted to bring it to everyone's attention that this could theoretically use up that money a little bit faster if we do get significant uptake on the program.
Thumbs up from Councillor Cassar and Clark. Any other thoughts online? Maybe just one last question for me, Heather, if that's all right. I know you've done research with other municipalities that have implemented this program, and I know we kind of missed this one last time around. Are there other things that other municipalities are doing that we might want to consider in your research, or do you think we have this pretty well at hand now?
Through the chair, I mean, off the top of my head, I'd say no. And based on the requests those couple of requests that we've received that we haven't been able to approve, with these changes, we will be able to approve them. So I think that's a good sign. And we did receive an additional set of requests from one property owner yesterday who has a few properties, and those all look again like they will fit now under these amendments that we're making. So based on that kind of evidence, I'd say that we've caught what we need to catch. But one other thing I should mention is, sorry, and I should have mentioned this as well, we are, when we bring forward these amendments, we are going to ask also that council allow staff to make some minor edits or tweaks to this policy without having to go back to council. So if there's something that we see that we could fix or tweak or make a little more clear, we can do it a lot faster next time. So that's something else that I should bring forward, and that'll be part of the staff report that goes forward for committee's consideration when we do bring that forward in March.
Sounds good to me. Anyone else online? Anyone here? Alan, yep.
Yeah, my question is, are you going to send out a form through the Agriculture Federation of Agriculture so we can get it out to our local farmers so we can, for the application for that sign?
Through the chair, yes, we can certainly do that. Absolutely.
Because we cover all the major farms across Hamilton, Wentworth, so I think it'd be a good idea. We can get it out to our mailing list that way too.
Absolutely. Yeah, we will do that. So as soon as it's approved, we'll send that information out to all the different contacts and stakeholders that we're aware of to get the word out as far as we can.
Okay, appreciate that.
The only comment I have is that if you can bring all the information back, maybe a year's time, see how it's going, then whether we need to then move it to more demanding than it is now. Thank you.
Through the chair, I'd be happy to come back with an update report a year from now. That would be fine.
All right, great. Can I get a motion to receive Heather's report? Staff report, Daniel, seconder, Alan. And any discussion on that? All in favor? Any opposed? Not seeing any. That's carried. Thank you very much, Heather, for your work on this file, and hope to see more red and white signs out across the countryside very soon.
So do I.
Okay, I don't have anything else on my agenda that I'm aware of. Is there anything around the table that needs to be brought up? Not seeing any. I'd take a motion to adjourn. Yeah. Oh, we don't need one. Yeah. Melvin,
Drew?
just,
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
think they brought up, but noticed that the international plowing match is coming up in Niagara on September the 16th to the 20th. So anybody wants to volunteer, we got a meeting coming up on Saturday to help volunteers out and get them into help with chairs. So down at the West Niagara Fairgrounds. So if anybody wants to volunteer, just let me know, or I can very well get the motion to get the help. We need all the help we can get and make a big show. So. Like, everybody get
Okay.
involved.
all right. Thanks, Mel. International plow match in the Golden Horseshoe. It's a big deal.
The last time I was here in 1926
There you go.
down in Niagara.
Was the sun shining?
I don't know. I wasn't there.
Oh yeah, you weren't there. Yeah. Well,
Yeah, I missed it by a few years.
all right, everyone. We've gone through our agenda and we will be adjourned at this time. So have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night, everybody.